Hello, everybody. How are you? This is Coy Bailey. I'm in Dr. Littlejohn's recent America history class, graduate seminar, and I have read this book, The Search for Order, 1877 to 1920, and it's by Robert Wiebe. I think it's Wiebe. Not totally sure, but we'll go with that. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the book. It's 302 pages. It's a very difficult read, but it does justice to for The Search of Order. It's a pretty well written book. It's got about 11 chapters in it. They're all pretty lengthy, but otherwise I enjoyed the book pretty much. I wanted to tell you a little bit about it. So from what I know, this is basically covering the era from 1877, which is about the crisis of 1883, 1885, that era, the crisis, which was a mild depression at that time, and it covers all the way up to the end of World War I, the Wilson administration, and up into the Roaring Twenties in the Red Scare era. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the gist about the book. It really fits into historiography because we're trying to find the identity for the American dream. And we're trying to figure out, what are we thinking? People became more involved in politics, foreign policy. People became more involved in their government, and they were searching for a new identity and a purpose. So a new middle class develops, and out of a progressive party, and they begin to think of new ideas, and they begin to fight. They begin to preserve democracy. They end up wanting to self-determination. They've been wanting to work on that, and they are also working on anti-monopolies. They're fighting big trust. Theodore Roosevelt was really big into that, so it kind of covers the eras of presidents such as Theodore Roosevelt up into the Progressive Party. He brought in a lot of change. He was able to keep a grip on Congress, and then William McKinley, and then it goes into Woodrow Wilson and his League of Nations, and then it goes into also Warren G. Harding is when we get into the 20s. Basically, also that develops out of this new middle class is a theory called the bureaucratic theory. The new middle class was the majority of this theory. It was based on several points. As Wiebe says, while they shaded many of the old moral absolutes, they still thought in terms of normal and abnormal, rationality and peace, decent living conditions, and equal opportunity. They consider natural passion and violence, slums, and deprivation were unnatural. So with this new bureaucratic mind, the new middle class was inspired and progressivism emerged. Pretty much during the Wilson administration, progressivism was cemented, and progressives were really in charge of the government. That's when we get this new idealism, the League of Nations. And by the end of the war, though, Wilson's League of Nations was pretty much declined. The new middle class was rejected for the most part. They began to decline. The Warren Harding administration came into effect. Republicans are back in control of Congress, and the scandalous president's in charge. So pretty much all of that. The progressive platform declined. Also, the new middle class was losing hope and shrinking. As we described, rather than bureaucratic order, it was actually a number of separated bureaucracies, barely joined together in some areas, openly in conflict elsewhere. So this is a pretty pretty good book where it fits into historiography. It just basically helps us describe the American identity and helps us think of new ways of what people were thinking back then. They were looking for their search of order, their identity, their purpose. It helps us look at that. Otherwise, this is a really good book. I enjoyed it. I recommend anybody read it. It's a rather difficult. The language is very, very top-notch, so you have to really know your language to be able to comprehend the book. But other than that, it's a really well-to-do book. I enjoyed it. I hope everybody has a great evening. Anyway, yeah, then we end with the Roaring Twenties. Have a great day.